Hello and welcome. This is the newsroom for today, Monday, November 2nd, 2020. In the headlines, hospitals to return to planned surgeries soon.
We would like to return our health services to some level of normalcy.
The Ministry of Education says there's a well-thought-out plan to reopen schools for students from 4 to 6 forms from next Monday. A new rice variety promises record yields as work continues on a special biofortified variety. In sport, the president of the Swimming Association talks up the need for collaboration. With the news, I'm Neil Marks. We're glad you could join us. The Ministry of Health is preparing its surgical wards to complete surgeries which were put on hold since March when Guyana confirmed its first COVID-19 case. Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony in Monday's COVID-19 update stated that many surgeries were put on hold at the regional hospitals, but efforts are being made to return planned surgeries to clear the backlog. He's hoping that this can be started this month with all of the COVID-19 precautions in place.
Now, one of the things that we have said, and this is something that we have relayed to all the regional health officers, is that we would like to return our health services to some level of normalcy. And what do we mean by that? If it was restricted before, now we have to be able to provide such service. It is not only at the outpatient clinics, but also people who would need hospitalization. Many of the planned surgeries were deferred since March for not only in Region 2, but in several of the regional hospitals. So we are working on a plan, so during this month, we will return to planned surgeries for all of our hospitals, including the Georgetown Public Hospital. So you can imagine if we weren't doing planned surgery since March, that there would be an extensive backlog. And so in discussions with the RHOs and some of the persons directly in charge of these departments, we are trying to figure out ways and means of how we can clear some of this backlog of cases. But this is an ongoing process, and we want to start that during November. Of course, we'll take all the necessary precautions so that people can come to the hospital and be safe, get their surgery, recover, and go home.
The Ministry of Health recorded 2 new COVID-19 deaths on Monday, taking the death toll to 128. The latest fatalities are a 74-year-old woman from Region 4 and a 57-year-old man from Region 1. These persons died while receiving care at a medical facility. The ministry Sunday recorded 46 new COVID-19 cases, taking the overall total to 4,208. Guyana on Sunday entered another phase of the reopening of the economy, with the curfew moving to 10:30 p.m. to 4 a.m. For the month of November, the government has also relaxed several measures to allow for the reopening of gyms at 50% capacity and the reopening of schools for examination students. Now, with approximately 21,000 students in grades 10, 11, and 12, along with students from practical and technical vocational institutes set to return to the classroom from next Monday, the Ministry of Education is assuring students, teachers, and parents that there is a well-thought-out plan in place.
While assuring that there will be no recreating of the wheel when it comes to the established safety protocols for COVID-19, Minister of Education Prem Manichan believes that her ministry has a solid plan in place that would allow for face-to-face learning to recommence. The minister, who fielded questions from the public on the reopening of schools at the weekend, said she was confident that it was the right decision to go in.
Content will begin from where it was left off for each student. This may necessitate reteaching what was already taught during these months of closure for those students who did not access said teaching during said school closure. A wellness diagnostic will be administered to our students and support offered where necessary. Our school's welfare department is fully mobilized to address needs as they arrive, and we intend to make sure we lose not one single child to this school closure.
Manichan said the ministry had to strike a balance between curbing learning loss, especially for students preparing for examinations, and learning to cope with the new norm which require high safety practices. She said the decision to reopen schools was based on studies and best practices from across the world, followed by extensive discussions between parents, teachers, the Ministry of Health, the Guyana Teachers Union, the Carbon Examinations Council, and other stakeholders. Teachers and students who will be returning to schools will not be required to do a COVID-19 test. However, if any student or teacher becomes infected, Minister Manichan assured that all guidelines will be followed.
Regular temperature checks, frequent cleaning of schools and adequate janitorial supplies, adequate cleaning staff, ongoing education about best practices for COVID safety will all be carried out. Accommodation can be made by schools to cater for teachers who have younger children at home who will not be returning out back to school just yet. We know this is a real concern and believe that schools can create space for those younger children and provide the supervision. The aim for these 10th, 11th, and 12th graders is to make sure they receive the education they need, so that they are not lifelong victims of COVID-19, so that their lives are not forever damaged. We may need to do things that are not usual. Anything that lends to that purpose of delivering the education necessary will be encouraged.
It was highlighted that the school term will be adjusted and the school week may also be extended. Students and teachers will attend school in a rotation scheduled based on special timetables set by the schools in accordance with the Gazette COVID-19 orders. Schools with dormitories will also be reopened on November 9 with special arrangements. Kirk Campbell, Newsroom.
When the newsroom returns, a new rice variety promises record yields as work continues on a special biofortified variety. You're watching the newsroom. President Irfan Ali on Saturday announced plans for the construction of a 4-lane highway in Region 3, stretching from the new Demerara Harbour Bridge to Parika. He said the project could open up thousands of acres of land for housing, large-scale agricultural projects, tourism, and other activities. The president pulled together a team of local experts in several government ministries and departments and had them drive as far as they could to demonstrate that the project is really possible.
We, during the campaign, spoke about the development of new growth poles, the building of new highways, transformative projects, and Region 3 is one of those regions where we will have a lot of transformation. And part of the transformation is about creating new infrastructure, converting low-value land or marginal land into high-value asset, and having a development mix that they take into consideration expansion of agriculture, opening up of tourism opportunity, housing development, industrial development, commercial development. And what you're seeing here today is a demonstration practically, and I'm happy you're here to see it, a practical demonstration as to the opportunities. Right now, if you tell someone you can drive on an alternative access from Canal Number 1 to Parika, they might have doubted you. But you have seen it for yourself. So we're going to put together a local team. When you talk about local content, we have the Army here, we have the Ministry of Public Works, Guyanese-based engineers, GIS specialists, and the private sector, local knowledge. We are bringing them together to commence the conceptual work in laying out this new highway. You're looking at about 12 miles connecting Canal to Parika and eventually on to the Del Conte route connecting to Bartica. Over the next 3 weeks, we will be examining many alternatives, including connection from Timeri to Bartica, the new 4-way highway from Timeri to the East Coast. So it's exciting times for Guyana.
So while everybody is lining up at the Ministry of Housing to get a house lot because they figure the few plots that they know are available will soon run out, so they would like to be number 1 out of 50,000. This is creating an understanding that we will get there. I'm extremely happy that the president is leading this initiative
Today we are here, it's not just the building of a road. It's not just the building of a road. This is not just the building of, this is when the president used the word we Guyanese. This is a project that we expect to have most locals involved, from the conceptualization, design, implementation, everything. The jump start on this project is a locally run initiative.
The main fact that the president gave, say, the locals, it shows that he has a lot of trust in the young engineers, the young technicians, and we're very happy to see the president going along that route. From the standpoint of the Ministry of Public Works, we were been designing roads long ago, and I think we have the capacity to ensure that the initial designs are done, and we can then take it, if required, to specialists. But at this point in time, we do have the capacity to ensure that we can do the groundwork for this project. And I'm very happy once more to hear the president saying that put the trust in the local engineers to have this project up and running.
As part of this Excellency's vision for the Guyana Defense Force, the Guyana Defense Force will be very much involved in development of this country, which is part of our mandate.
Well, for this particular project, I will be part of the planning team, and when it comes to the execution, we will be deploying men and machinery to aid in the construction.
I'm very, very excited as a person who lives in the #1 Canal area and as a member of the Private Sector Commission. I think this is an awesome opportunity that just don't bring the benefits of free movement and easy movement on the roadway, but it also creates a whole host of other opportunities, such as tourism that oversee the conservancy. It creates also opening up more farmland for agriculture. It also creates opportunity for aquaculture and housing development. So it doesn't benefit the road users alone. It benefits a lot of other sectors. And from a private sector standpoint, I think it's a remarkable project that the government is embarking on at this point in time.
This road, it will do so much for this, not only Region 3, but for Guyana as a whole, because it would reduce costs of getting produce from the Essequibo and from other Parika to Georgetown at a lower rate. Companies that do manufacturing, that are involved in agro-processing, those products would be able to arrive there at a lower cost and in better quality. So it will do wonders for Guyana. In terms of NISIL is part of the, whole of Gaisuku, and Gaisuku has a lot of land here which are not being used as we drove through. You see, those are marginal lands. Sugarcane not growing properly on them. Those lands can be converted into housing, going to create a better value for Gaisuku. Rather than having the lands abandoned, they can sell those lands, and those money can be used in Gaisuku for more productive means.
A new rice variety called GRDB 16 has been released by the Guyana Rice Development Board. It promises to deliver the highest yields for farmers, with trials producing some 60 bags per acre. Minister of Agriculture Zulfikar Mustafa said the variety could change the lives of farmers for the better, and he said the government will continue to invest in research and the development of new varieties.
The yields range between 30 bags per acre, 30 to 32 bags per acre, the lowest a farmer had gotten, to as much as 60 bags per acre, which is around from 5 tons per hectare to 9.5 tons per hectare, and that was achieved in the farmer field. Many farmers got beyond 8 tons per hectare, around 50, 53, 55 bags per acre. And the average yield turned out to be 46, 47 bags per acre, thereabout, when we have averaged everything out. So we have a candidate variety that can yield 9 tons per hectare. It is remarkable, and it can be achieved. It was achieved. We have just achieved it, and many farmers more can achieve with the good principle and practice of management.
As we know, research plays a pivotal role in the development of any industry. And comrades and friends, our government, the PPP Civic government, in our manifesto, we specifically state to increase production and productivity through research and development into new strains and pest control. We will expend large sums to ensure we keep up with the rest of the world. And that is, we have already started that. The GRDB Rice Research Station is in a continuous quest for new technologies to improve rice productivity in all levels, making our rice industry more competitive and sustainable. Guyana has made tremendous progress in research. The GRDB has released 15 varieties from 1997 to 2018. This has led to a significant increase in national productivity over the years, from 28 bags per acre to 38 bags per acre in 2019. And we are expecting better in the coming season. I can assure you, the farmers, that they will have a continuous flow of new varieties and technologies. In fact, the next 5 years, we will be bringing in more than 1,000 new breeding lines and germplasma for testing and developing appropriate varieties for our farmers. So you could rest assured that they're going to be good and large investment in the next 5 years. We'll be networking with the relevant international institutes to stay relevant to science and technology.
The Rice Research Station of the Guyana Rice Development Board and the Inter-American Institute for Agriculture, ICA, are working on the development of a biofortified variety of rice. This was announced by ICA Country Representative Wilmot Garnett.
This will be the first for Guyana, the first in the region. And what that means is that we're looking at high levels of zinc. And so Dr. Mahendra Persaud and his team, we have done quite a bit of evaluation. We have some very good candidates, and so I will leave for him and his remarks to say more or less when we'll be back here again, releasing that variety. But let me just say that, remember, especially with the pandemic, the recommendation from the health officials, take your vitamin C and your zinc, and now you'll have it in your rice. And certainly I want to remind Honorable Minister, especially when he meets with his colleagues at the COTED, that we cannot be selling this rice for the regular price. So this is something that the government will have to work out. Guyana will certainly be the leader in the region. We have another project in Belize, but they're focusing on beans and iron. So you could see the collaboration within the region. You could see the very important role that Guyana is playing. And Minister, we got to do the math. Agriculture is a business. We always say that in ICA. It boils down, the farmers can tell you, it boils down to dollars and cents. So we'll have to find what percentage we'll have to charge a little bit more for this biofortified rice that will be high in zinc content. Naturally, no GMO. I'm not talking about GMO. It's just through the breeding program that we've been working on. And very brief, we have a new project we're working on, which we call SRI. And that project is a system intensification for rice. We're working with the GRDB because we don't write our projects at my office. And we have to ensure that we engage the beneficiaries. But the essence of that project is that we'll use less paddy, less seed, as much as 70–80%. Precision agriculture, we'll use less fertilizer. We'll use less fertilizer in other countries because this has been proven in other countries. So we're using the best practices. Other countries use 40–50% less water that they've been using. So all that means that the price, we can be more competitive because the cost of production should decrease.
You're watching the newsroom. In spite of the challenges posed by COVID-19, Guyana has gone ahead with the observance of Tourism Awareness Month, promising the enjoyment of Guyana's unique tourism product, but with strict adherence to safety protocols.
This year, Tourism Awareness Month is being observed under the theme Destination Guyana, Recover and Rebuild, Getting Ready to Bounce Back. During the next 30 days, persons from all across the world will be exposed to what makes tourism in Guyana unique. Even with plans for recovery, stakeholders in the tourism sector believe that Guyana currently stands as one of the best locations to currently enjoy tourism, particularly with the need to social distance. Tourism Awareness Month was launched at the weekend with high hopes for the rollout of 3 new tourism experiences.
We are going to be launching 3 new tourism experiences that are all-day tours and designed with the domestic traveler in mind. The Marikabai Village Tour, the Seven Curry Tour, and the Wakapau Tour. It's definitely day tours that you should get involved in, immerse yourself to really understand and appreciate what makes Guyana a unique destination.
Despite tourism being one of the sectors severely affected by the global COVID-19 pandemic, President Irfan Ali in his address assured that Guyana's tourism sector will rebound. The president emphasized that a collective effort is needed to safeguard the precious and diverse tourism product as he urged each Guyanese to continue to demonstrate the characteristic traditional Guyanese hospitality, to preserve and protect our national environment, and to keep free from pollution, and to ensure that the COVID-19 guidelines designed to keep people safe are adhered to.
The local tourism sector is believed to have suffered an estimated decline of 46% of its revenue from the first half of this year, with 30% of the sector's employees losing their jobs and an additional 36% being placed on unpaid leave. I'm optimistic, however, that our sector is resilient and will rebound from this setback.
For Tourism Awareness Month, a host of activities have been conceptualized to help boost local tourism. Guyana Restaurant Week, for example, will be held from November 20 to 29. There will also be the launch of a Jonestown Trail, the rollout of an agro-tourism roadmap, and several beautification and enhancement projects. Kurt Campbell, Newsroom.
60 top students at this year's National Grade 6 assessment on Monday received smart tablets from Anson McCall Trading Limited to continue their studies during the pandemic. The handing over ceremony was held at the Artichong Conference Center.
Education is important for us to defeating the vagaries that life will throw at us if you're educated. So I want to charge you and to urge you to press on. The time will come when you will sleep, maybe for a lengthy period of time, but now is not the time to sleep and to slumber or to fold your arms and say, I'm chilling, I'm relaxing. Now is a time for movements. And so again, we want to, at the Ministry of Education and on my own behalf, I want to say thanks to Anson McCall for the contributions they have made or they will be making this morning. And we look forward to working with our parents and our teachers so that we could build a progressive, a productive Guyana.
To the students, at this age, please understand that your future goals may still not be clear, but with time and the advancement of science and technology, your career path will be guided by the needs of society. More importantly, I would like to admonish you, never take for granted opportunities to give back to humanity. Do not be afraid, do not be afraid to aim high, dream big, or to use your imagination, even if it leads to failure. Failures and disappointment are a sure stepping stone to success.
A new impressive timber showroom of Bulkan Timberworks Incorporated signals the company's renewed focus on marketing its high-quality wooden products on the local market. For years, the business has concentrated on the export market. Now, the family business hopes to change the mindset of Guyanese about Guyana's timber resources and also has big plans for the restoration of colonial buildings in the country. Kurt Campbell reports.
I had a burning desire to prove to myself that I can make it on my own. The road getting here has not been easy. No startup capital, no reliable supply of electricity, but over time, we've managed to overcome most of these hurdles.
Bulkan Timberworks was incorporated in 1997 by Howard Bulkan, who recalls being dead broke at the time, coming out of a failed project to get a glass factory going.
When we started, there was not a reliable supply of lumber, and we quickly realized that we had to control our own raw material supply. We decided to integrate backwards, investing in our own portable mills. So we got our own forest concession, about 60,000 acres. We have portable mills in the forest, and this lumber is trucked about 200 miles from the forest to our factory.
At the opening of the company's new showroom at the weekend, Mr. Bulkan recalled approaching Citizens Bank and securing a $5 million loan. The business is now 24 years old.
We hit the ground running, and over the next 24 years, transformed this abandoned site into an industrial woodworking complex, second to none in Guyana and the Caribbean. And here I have to acknowledge the continuous support from Citizens Bank, but more so my staff, a great workforce, ably led by Justin, my son, and George, my nephew, the two directors who really run the show on a day-to-day basis.
Bulkan is confident that the business has the resources and skills necessary to restore City Hall, the neo-Gothic colonial building that once stood as one of the key landmarks of the city of Georgetown. But more importantly, he's proud to say that Bulkan Timberworks makes good on its corporate responsibility. He said although the business is well known in the region, Guyanese know little to nothing about it, and he intends to change that.
With a new administration, we can now apply, and we plan to do just that. So we say to the government, try us with 1% or 50 of that 5,000 homes to be built on an annual basis. We will justify your decision by giving good value for every cent of expenditure. Rebuilding and restoring City Hall, one of our well-known historical buildings built some 130 years ago, which has now fallen into disrepair, is a project that we have the skills to undertake whenever the state can raise the funding.
The family business boasts of providing quality wooden products of the highest standards. Kurt Campbell, Newsroom.
When the newsroom returns, the financial weather and bridge reports along with sport. Welcome back. You're watching the newsroom. It's time for sport. New president of the Guyana Amateur Swimming Association, Dwayne Scott, has indicated his administration will not be a one-man show, but will bank on the input from all stakeholders to move the sport forward. Akeem Green has more in this report.
Scott, a member of the Seattle Swim Club, was elected on Saturday when the association held their elections at the National Aquatic Center, Liniandal. He was unopposed as incumbent Brian Goodrich opted not to vie for re-election. The new president said he wants to ensure there is harmony so they can make good use of the wealth of knowledge within the fraternity.
The biggest issue that we face is the absence of collaboration. I suspect that if we tend to run it as a one-man show or a one-group show, you will always have that element in place. The important thing for me is that we have a wealth of knowledge for the fraternity. We have people who have been in the industry like Nicholas Fraser, Miss Stephanie Fraser, Miss Dr. Karen Pilgrim. These are all learned minds in the sport. I think their absence from the sport in itself do some level of disharmony and some level of harm. And so the objective is not only to get them involved, but to have all the other members and clubs involved in what our activities and plannings would be. I believe the disharmony comes in the absence of that element of leadership.
With sport being allowed to resume under condition approval is granted by the Minister of Health, and more so strict guidelines are followed, Scott said his immediate plan is to get the pool functioning and place a primary focus on the Olympic hopefuls.
My short-term plans as it lies, first it has to do with getting the facility back in operation. Currently the facility is out of commission because we do not have the prerequisite chemicals to have it up and running. So my first approach will be getting that aspect addressed, and then we need to focus on getting the youths back into the pool. We have received some guidelines from FINA, and so we're working to implement those guidelines to make sure that we can get our youths back into the pool safely, taking into consideration the COVID-19. And then more importantly, to some extent, we have a few athletes who are vying for the Olympics next year, and so we will be working with the coaches to ensure that these athletes can be adequately prepared and to make the prerequisite times to be at the Olympics next year.
The only contested position was for Vice President of Technical Management, in which Randolph dos Santos defeated Shifet DZ 11 votes to 7. Elkie Rodriguez returned as Vice President of Administration, likewise Yelma Phillips returned as Secretary, and Valkamik Singh as Treasurer. According to Scott, the post of Assistant Secretary Treasurer, which was not filled due to no nominations, will be done by the executive when they convene for their first meeting. President of the Guyana Olympic Association, K.A. Yuman Yasin, who was a returning officer, indicated in Newsroom Sport on Monday. All 6 clubs under GASA were represented, and there were no objections regarding the elections. For the Newsroom, Akim Green.
And Akim Green continues with the rest of the sport news.
West Indies head coach Phil Simmons is viewing the Treaty 20s in New Zealand as a way for some of the new faces in the squad to enhance their chances for a regular spot as the team begins their preparation for World T20 defense next year. With the absence of some of the seasoned names such as Dwayne Bravo, Andre Russell and Chris Gayle from the squad, Simmons hopes the current replacements can perform credibly and give the management options as they look to select the best possible squad for next year's title defense.
We're just going to try to continue how we plan the preparation going forward. And in this series especially, there's a few guys who weren't in that team in Sri Lanka, and they would be trying to push themselves because we're missing some of the 2 main all-rounders. We're missing them. And guys will be trying to push themselves into the final 15 for next year. So we've already started to try and build towards that.
The coach further stated it is important that players, both in the playing 11 and those on the bench, understand their specific role and can be able to execute when called upon.
At this point, you have quite a few players who still to understand exactly how they fit into the whole lineup. And that's what the build-up is now. It's about making sure that everybody understands how they fit into the lineup. If you're on the bench and you come in, you know exactly what you have to do. If you're in the first 11 and you're playing, you know exactly what you have to do. So that's what we're trying to make sure that everyone knows what they have to do for this team to make this team successful.
He has backed the players arriving on the New Zealand tour from the IPL to be ready for the T20 series at the end of November, despite the fact that they will not have completed their managed isolation until the eve of the opening match in Auckland.
It's a little bit difficult this time because when the main T20 guys get here, they're in isolation until I think the morning of the first game. So it's a little bit difficult from that point of view. But the plus about that is that they're coming from playing in a high quality tournament, so they will be sharp. And the guys that are with us, we've got to get them up to that sharpness level so that when we meet on the 27th as a full squad, everybody's on the same page. But preparation it's difficult, but it's going to be good because of the 8 guys that we have here with us.
6 members of the T20 squad, including Captain Karen Pollard, will leave the UAE following the conclusion of the IPL on November 10th. The other players to join Pollard are Fabian Allen, Sherman Hetmeyer, Kimo Paul, Nicholas Puran, O'Shane Thomas, and Test Captain Jason Holder, who is not a part of the T20 squad. The remainder of the touring party arrived on Friday after a 50-hour journey from the Caribbean. For the first 3 days, there will be no bubbles, as in individuals have to stay in their rooms and have no contact with anyone else. Afterwards, there will be incremental increases to the size of the training group until the 14 days of quarantine ends. For the Newsroom, Akim Green. Delhi Capitals and Royal Challengers Bangalore have secured their spot in the playoffs for the Indian Premier League. Capitals won today by 6 wickets and secured second position on the point standing, while RCB will finish either third or fourth, depending on the outcome of Tuesday's match. Chasing 153, Ajinkya Rahane and Shikhar Dhawan added 88 for second wicket after the early loss of Prithvi Shaw. Rahane made 60 off 46 balls, which he struck 5 fours and 1 6, while Dhawan made 54 from 41 balls with 6 fours, which laid the platform for the victory with an over to spare. Shabazz Ahmed took 2 for 26 for RCB. RCB's 152 for 7 was built around opener Devdutt Padikkal 50 from 41 balls, while Virat Kohli made a 24 ball 29 and AB de Villiers a 21 ball 39, where he struck 2 sixes and a solitary 4 on a difficult pitch for batting. South Africa's seamers Anrik Nortje and Kagiso Rabada took a combined 5 wickets. Nortje had 3 for 33 and Rabada 2 for 30. IPL action continues tomorrow with a final preliminary match, where Sunrisers Hyderabad will face table toppers the Mumbai Indians in a must-win match from 10 hours in Sharjah. If the requisite approval is granted, the Barbados Cricket Board will seek to restart the calendar of activities for 2020 under strict COVID-19 guidelines. Following an announcement that sport events are now permitted and gyms and fitness centers can reopen at 50% capacity under the new COVID-19 measures, the BCB informed their intention to restart their season. On the agenda would be the Banksbury 2 days semi-finals, the NBS Fort Overs tournament, the quarter-finals, the Premium Asphalt TR Construction semi-finals and final, the Mike's Pharmacy on the 15 finals, the Lewiston General Store on the 15 semi-final and final, the Elizabeth Styles on the 21 finals, and the Let's Bet Sports 2020 overall finals. It is understood no new tournament would be started for the rest of the year. According to the Public Relations Officer of the BCB, Simon Naidu, teams involved were asked to get themselves in order for a possible restart of the cricket season. He further expanded that the BCB President, Hilbert Forster, on Saturday spoke to the head of Region 6 COVID-19 Task Force, Dr. Vishala Sharma. A letter from the BCB would be submitted shortly to Dr. Sharma, seeking the government permission and the regulations under which they can play. The new measures state that sporting events are permitted, subject to the approval of the Minister of Health and in compliance with any guidelines that the Ministry of Health may issue. Every person or organizer hosting an approved sporting event shall be responsible for ensuring that the measures under the notice, as well as the guidelines that the Ministry of Health may issue, are complied with. For the Newsroom, Akim Green.
That's our broadcast for this evening. I'm Neil Marks. Take care until tomorrow. Remember, you can get the latest breaking local news and sport at Newsroom.gy.